Hi, in this video I briefly explain the most important valuation methods. There are two main valuation methods. The first one is intrinsic valuation. Intrinsic valuation relates the value of an asset or a business to its intrinsic characteristics, namely its capacity to generate cash flows and the risk in the cash flows. Intrinsic value is computed using a discounted cash flow valuation, with the value of an asset being the present value of expected future cash flows on that asset. The second approach is relative valuation, that is commonly referred to as multiples or comparables companies analysis. This method estimates the value of an asset by looking at the pricing of comparable assets or businesses relative to a common variable like earnings, cash flows, book values, or sales. For example, P/E ratio is a commonly used multiple. When you're valuing a company using a P/E ratio, you need to find out the P/E ratio at which similar companies as yours are traded. Assume that the P/E ratio of comparables is 10. Okay, this means that the similar companies are traded at 10 times their earnings. If your company's earning per share is €1, and you want to apply the same multiple to your company, then you will have the P/E ratio of 10 for your company, and this has to be equal to the price per share over the earning per share. The earning per share is 1 for your company, and therefore the price would be €10 estimated. That's a relative valuation estimation for your company.
This gives you the essence of relative valuation, although a proper relative or multiple valuation requires a much more careful analysis on how to find comparable companies, how to correct for differences across companies, and so on. We cover those in a separate video.
For now, we discuss the main steps and ingredients of a DCF valuation. Any DCF valuation includes the following 6 steps. First, you need to understand the firm, its business model, its governance, and its historical performance. It is important to note that analyzing the past and historical performance are only important to the extent that they are helpful for estimating future cash flows. In other words, the only cash flows that are important for estimating the value are those that occur in the future and not those in the past. The second step, using the insights from the first step, together with other forward-looking available information, you forecast future cash flows. The projection period is typically between 5 and 15 years, depending on the stage in life cycle that the company is in. The projection period depends on the company's stage, since at the end of the projection period, the company is supposed to be a stable, mature company. For example, for very young companies, you may use a projection period of, let's say, 10 to 15 years, since it may take many years before the company becomes a stable one. However, for an old, mature, and stable company, a 5-year projection period is typical. When you're done with forecasting the projection period, you need to estimate a terminal or continuing value for the company, that is essentially the present value of all future cash flows at the terminal value year. When you have forecasted free cash flows in the future, you need to discount them to obtain their present value. The discount rate must reflect the riskiness of those cash flows and is called the cost of capital. It is computed by taking the average weighted rate of return for all sources of capital, namely debt and equity. When you discount all future cash flows, you have an estimated value of the business, but note that this is the value that is available for both debt holders and equity holders. We typically are interested to estimate the equity value per share, and hence we need to deduct the value of debt and other non-equity claims from the business value to get to the equity value. Dividing the equity value to the number of shares outstanding gives you an estimated value per share. The last general step in a DCF valuation is to do checks and sensitivity analysis to make sure that everything important has been considered, the assumptions are realistic, and also understand how sensitive the estimated value is with respect to changing important assumptions and inputs such as growth rates and cost of capital. Now let's put all this in one formula. Remember that we need to estimate future free cash flows to the firm. This means the cash flow to all claim holders in the firm, both debt holders and equity holders, but after the investments in the firm required to generate future cash flows. Since we need to compute free cash flow to the firm, we compute the cash flows before debt payments. Okay, this is why we start with operating income and act like we pay taxes on EBIT. Okay? In effect, we ignore any tax benefits from interest expenses here. So EBIT times 1 minus T represent all cash flows to the firm, but not all these are available for debt holders and shareholders, since the firm needs to use part of this cash flow to reinvest in the business to sustain its growth. These required investments needs to be deducted to obtain free cash flow, which is the cash flow available for distribution to debt holders and equity holders. These investments are either net capital expenditures, which is the capital expenditure minus depreciation, or investments in working capital. Then, to estimate the terminal value, typically assume that the cash flows grow at a constant rate after the terminal year. And if so, the stream of cash flows after the projection period represent a growing perpetuity. The present value of a growing perpetuity is computed by the cash flow in year 1, so which is here this term, divided to the cost of capital minus the growth rate. The G in here is the growth rate terminal year. So the final piece in estimating the value is the cost of capital. It is the weighted cost of equity and cost of debt. The weights must be computed using market values, but it is common to use book value of debt. However, for equity, you should always try to use the market value. It is important to note that we use after-tax cost of debt in cost of capital computation. This is in fact how tax deductibility of interest is taken into account in a DCF valuation. So there are 3 main ingredients in computing a DCF value. First, estimating free cash flows. Second, estimating the terminal value. And third is estimating the cost of capital.